36 spine-chilling tales uncovered. Terrifying secrets of haunted shadows awaiting the brave in the quaint town of Maplewood. Sarah, a single mother, thrived amid autumn's embrace. But the whispering shadows that danced against her window each night invoked a terror deeper than the chill in the air. Flickering lights and faint, eerie whispers calling her name peppered the stillness of her home. Each time, her heart raced. Was it exhaustion from her long shifts as a nurse, or a sign that something far worse lurked just beyond the surface of her comfortable life? One night, while trying to quell Lily's doubts about the darkness gathering outside, Sarah felt something shift in the air. The cozy familiarity of Maplewood began morphing into a chilling landscape, shadows creeping into her mission of motherhood. A nearby neighbor had spoken of ghastly tales, midnight rituals, and unspeakable acts of malice that filled the streets with dread when the moon waxed full. Sarah brushed it off, but those stories nestled in her mind, setting her nerves on fire. With each passing day, the sense of foreboding clawed at her sanity. The quiet nights became a cacophony of noises, muffled voices, strange thumps, and glimpses of figures darting beyond her sight. "It's just my imagination," she muttered to herself, but her instincts screamed otherwise, urging her to protect Lily from something sinister lurking in the dark corners of her home. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then came the betrayal. One of her closest friends, someone she turned to for support, revealed an unsettling connection to the town's dark history, a family intertwined with the very fabric of Maplewood's haunted past. As dread seeped into her interactions, Sarah could no longer trust those she once called neighbors. Their faces morphed into masks, concealing secrets that made her skin crawl. With Lily caught up in the web of this malevolence, Sarah's determination to shield her daughter from the malignant shadows intensified. One seemingly ordinary night, as Sarah prepared for another grueling shift at the hospital, she heard a sweet, ghostly rendition of her daughter's name wafting up the staircase, chilling her to the core. Lily, the voice was unmistakable, yet the house was empty. Panic gripped her heart, the already fraying threads of her reality loosening further. The shadows felt alive, slithering closer, as if aware of her growing fear. She bolted for the door, praying she wasn't too late. What had she unleashed within her home? The comforting street of Maplewood, once a cradle of safety, transformed into a treacherous landscape. Each breath felt heavy with dread. The very walls whispered encouragement to the impending darkness. Would she be able to unravel the secrets that held her family captive? Would she find Lily before the shadows consumed her as they had generations before? The door creaked as she pushed it open, shivering under the icy grip of night. The mist danced like restless spirits around her feet. "Lily!" she screamed. Her voice swallowed into the void, consumed by the malevolent presence watching from the darkness. Panic surged as she stepped out, her heartbeat echoing in the tense silence. A haunting question pierced her mind. Who, or what, had called her name? And why did it feel like a trap? The night was suffocating, thick with an atmosphere that pressed against Sarah's chest as if the shadows had come alive. "Lily!" she called again, her voice trembling with desperation. The sound vanished into the night like a whisper carried away by a cruel wind. A chill crept along her spine, and her instincts screamed for her to get back inside, to lock the door and barricade against whatever lurked out there. But her daughter, Lily, was out there, in the darkness, somewhere amid the eerie mist that twisted and turned with a life of its own. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Focus, Sarah. You need to find her." Every nerve in her body urged her to turn back, to listen to the rational part of her mind telling her it was all a figment of her exhaustion. But motherly instinct overrode her fear. She stepped into the night, the darkness swallowing her whole as she ventured deeper into the shadows. Her surroundings felt alien. The trees loomed like twisted giants, their branches clawing at the sky. The faint sound of her heartbeat mixed with the unsettling silence, creating a rhythm that quickened with each uncertain step. Then she heard it, the soft giggle of a child, soaring through the cold air like an echo trapped between worlds. Lily, panic gripped her as she stumbled toward the sound, drawn like a moth to a flame. The voice faded, replaced by a hushed whisper that carried her name, wrapping around her like a shroud. Sarah, come play. The chill intensified. Was it her imagination, or was someone guiding her deeper into the woods? The ground felt alive beneath her feet, the earth whispering secrets she was never meant to hear. Branches brushed against her skin, sharp enough to draw blood, but she pressed on. Please, Lily, where are you? Her calls pierced the stillness, but the only reply was the laughter, loud and joyful, drowning out the panic in her chest. For a moment she was paralyzed. Couldn't he be her daughter laughing in such a haunted place? Then she spotted a flickering light ahead, a solitary glimmer that pierced the darkness. With newfound urgency, she pushed through the underbrush, the mist swirling around her ankles like grasping hands. Every rustle and cracking branch heightened her terror. As she approached, the light grew brighter. It stood at the edge of a clearing, illuminating a small, decrepit dollhouse that seemed too vivid against the backdrop of despair. Its windows glinted like hungry eyes, and the door creaked open, as if inviting her in. Lily, she cried, heart pounding in her throat as she crossed the threshold of the clearing. The laughter stopped, replaced by an unsettling silence. Inside the dollhouse, the atmosphere changed instantly, a sudden shift that chilled her bone deep. Rows of tiny, detailed figures lined the shelves, each one eerily reminiscent of the people of Maplewood. Their faces were frozen in haunting smiles, lifelike yet devoid of warmth. And then there was her daughter. Lily stood at the end of the hall, her eyes wide with wonder as she spun in place. Mommy, look at our new friends. Sarah's breath quickened. With a sharp turn, she rushed towards her daughter only to stumble, falling against a partition that should have been solid. Instead, it gave way, sending her crashing into a void. She was falling. The giggles returned, swirling around her. Mommy, play with me. Darkness closed in like a serpent, coiling tightly around her. And as she disappeared into that abyss, a deafening whisper echoed. You should have never come here. What had she just stumbled into? What secrets awaited her in the depths of Maplewood's haunted history? Would she save Lily or become lost within the shadows forever? The fall felt endless, a disorienting plunge into a cold, enveloping darkness. Sarah braced herself for impact, her heart racing like a war drum in her ears. When she finally landed, it wasn't on solid ground, but rather a soft, damp surface that absorbed her weight. She blinked against the oppressive blackness, gasping for air, filled with an overwhelming sense of dread. Pushing herself up, she instinctively called out, Lily. Her voice echoed, swallowed by the void, each cry sending ripples through the suffocating silence. Suddenly, dim light flickered in the distance. Shadows danced along the walls of an unseen space, casting eerie forms that twisted and curled. Driven by a mother's desperate need to find her child, Sarah crawled toward the illumination, struggling against the unease that threatened to paralyze her. The light grew stronger, revealing a figure at its core, a grotesque apparition, a distorted likeness of herself. It smiled with an unsettling familiarity, eyes glowing like coals. Welcome, Sarah, the figure whispered, each syllable dripping with malice. Her reflection morphed, warping into familiar faces, friends, neighbors, all laughing, twisted in a macabre scene replaying before her. She recoiled, skin crawling as the impulse to flee gripped her. But the only way out seemed to lie deeper within that maddening light. Gritting her teeth, she pressed forward, battling weakness that gnawed at her limbs like a relentless pest. Mommy! The sweet sound of Lily's voice, now distant and fading, refilled her with purpose. Mommy! I need you. Hold on, Lily. I'm coming. Sarah shouted, not knowing where the words came from but unwilling to let her daughter slip further away. The light grew blinding, casting long shadows that reached out like grasping hands as she stepped into the heart of the glow. She found herself in what seemed like a long-abandoned parlor, the air thick with age and decay. A magnificent chandelier hung above, the crystals reflecting the light in a fractured dance, creating haunting shapes on the walls. Old portraits adorned the room, their subjects eyeing her with knowing gazes, holding secrets of a forgotten era. But no Lily. She turned back, searching for another path when a frail voice called out from behind her. "Play with us, Sarah." It was a chorus of children, their faces flickering in and out of reality, appearing and disappearing like fireflies caught in the trap of the night. "Why are you doing this?" she cried, scanning the room for any sign of her daughter. "Where's my daughter?" "Lily is one of us now," a voice darker than the shadows answered, reverberating from nowhere, yet seeming to surround her. "This is her home and soon, it will be yours too." A figure emerged from the corner, a small silhouette with curls cascading around her face. "Mommy, look!" Lily exclaimed, holding a delicate doll adorned with a faded dress that shimmered in the dim light. "She's just like me." Caught between joy and horror, Sarah's heart raced at the sight of her daughter, but as she rushed forward, it felt like she was running through treacle, each step heavier than the last. "Join us, Mommy," Lily giggled, looking up with those innocent eyes now steeped in an unnatural glow. "Stay away from her," Sarah shouted, a primal fear coursing through her veins. But shadows crept closer, swirling at her feet, tugging insistently. She fought against the tug that pulled her toward the chilling scene. "I can't leave you," Sarah screamed, fighting against the invisible bonds that sought to bind her to the darkness. Lily's face twisted, a fleeting glimpse of sorrow behind her smile revealing the grotesque truth of the dollhouse's grip. "But you must play." As the last echoes of laughter rang around her, everything faded to an overwhelming darkness, and the walls began to close in, thickening the air, suffocating her breath, nearly extinguishing her resolve. "Just stop," she pleaded, desperation clawing in her throat. But silence fell, and the last vestiges of light flickered out, leaving her enveloped in chilling solitude. Would she surrender to this nightmare? Could she reclaim her daughter from whatever held her captive? Somewhere, deep within the darkness, a new voice called. "Welcome to the game." A jolt of impending dread coursed through Sarah. She was about to discover how deep the rabbit hole really went. What rules governed this twisted game? And who would emerge victorious? The darkness was a tangible presence, wrapping itself around Sarah like a suffocating shroud. She couldn't tell how long she'd been standing there, rooted in a maelstrom of confusion and fear. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears, drowning out the whispers that surrounded her. Were they real or just figments of her racing mind? Voices curled through the air like smoke, teasing her sensibilities, taunting her dread. "Mommy, please." That voice felt so close and yet so far, clawed at her insides, urging her on. "Lily," she shouted again, her voice sounding weak even to her ears. She needed to fight back against this growing dread. With a deep breath, she pressed onward into the heart of the darkness. Suddenly, a flicker stirred the air before her. She stumbled forward, the soft damp ground shifting beneath her. Up ahead, there was a shadow, a flickering outline that danced in desperation. It wasn't her daughter, but a mere silhouette, barely discernible from the abyss. "Follow me," it beckoned, its tone almost a whisper. An icy chill went down her spine. It was luring her in, pulling her farther from the only light, the only warmth she craved. "What do you want?" she croaked. "Where is Lily?" The figure melted away, dissolving into nothingness, leaving Sarah alone once more in the oppressive quiet. A shiver coursed through her body. Each breath became a struggle, the very air thick enough to choke on. Panic surged as she spun around, searching again for that familiar face, yearning to hear her precious child's laughter. "Mommy!" The voice was clearer now, echoing with a haunting cadence that made her stomach twist. "I'm playing, you can too." Almost instinctively, Sarah felt the tug of a deep-seated compulsion, a desire she couldn't articulate. Was this part of the game? Was she just supposed to play along? She willed herself to fight against it. Lily's laughter filled the air, delightful and yet chilling. It's fun here. We all play together. The parlor had reshaped itself, morphing into a vast expanse, walls blurring into eternity. Children floated just outside her reach, their faces dim and grotesque, eyes filled with too much knowledge far beyond their age. "Join us," they beckoned. "Join the fun." "Let me go," Sarah screamed, her voice tearing through the darkness, but the laughter only grew. It twisted, became something dark, rubbing against her skin like an unseen hand, with frantic urgency. She tore through the shadows, but each corner she turned revealed only more obscurity. Desperation clawed at her heart. Time was slipping through her fingers like sand. In the distance, she spotted a glimmer of light, pulsating like a heartbeat. Her instincts drove her toward it as though it was a lifeline thrown into the abyss. "Lily, I'm coming." But as she reached that light, it morphed again, a shifting waltz of vibrant hues blending into malignant shades. Shadows coiled together, forming a figure more monstrous than before. It loomed over her, its eyes burning with an otherworldly hunger. "No escape," it hissed. "You are part of the game now." Sarah stumbled back, panic enveloping her. It was happening too fast. She couldn't process the horror before her. She had to get to Lily. She had to fight to break free. "Mommy, are you playing?" The voice was right beside her now, sweet and innocent, but it sent a chill trickling down her spine. "Lily." Despair surged anew. Just then, a trapdoor beneath her feet swung open, yawning like a hungry mouth. Out of instinct, she leapt back. The voice of her daughter broke through. "Mommy, come on. Don't be scared." She felt herself being pulled toward the edge of darkness while the looming figure clawed at the air, losing its grip. "Trust me." Lily's voice rang clearer. But could she trust anything here? Could she trust even the echoes of her own child? As Sarah teetered on the edge, a decision hung in the air like a blinding flash of lightning. Would she leap into the unknown to save her daughter, and perhaps herself? Or would she remain trapped in the grip of this malevolent game? In the next breath, she heard the whispers, again rolling like a wave. Jump or lose forever. With the weight of every horror she defaced, she felt the sudden rush of a possible escape. Determined, she took a breath, summoned every ounce of courage and chanced the leap into the uncovered abyss. What awaited her on the other side? Would she find light or more darkness? An echo of laughter followed her descent, mingling with the shadows that beckoned her deeper. Falling felt like an eternity, a freefall into nothing. Sarah's stomach lurched. Her heart thundered as she braced for impact. When she landed, it wasn't on anything solid. It was as if she'd floated into a pool of shadows, an unending void that enveloped her. Her surroundings transformed violently, blurring from black to gray. As she blinked against the harshness of flickering lights overhead, she found herself standing in a dimly lit room. The air felt electric, charged with a static energy that made her hair stand on end. The walls were lined with mirrors, reflecting her pale, terrified face back at her in every angle. "Lily." Her call pierced the air, desperate, breaking the suffocating silence. The laughter, a haunting melody, came again, swirling around her like a sinister wind. "Come find me, Mommy." The voice was unmistakably her daughter's, but twisted, echoing with an unsettling glee. Sarah's pulse raced as the reflections in the mirrors began to shift. The girl she saw was no longer just a reflection. In one mirror, her daughter waved enthusiastically, her innocent face smeared with an unnatural shadow that seemed to pulse with life. In another, children danced hand in hand, their laughter chilling, eyes wide and unblinking. "Join us," they chanted in unison, voices merging into phantoms of enticement. "Stop it." Frantic and desperate, Sarah turned away. She had to focus. She couldn't let herself be fooled. The game was trying to trap her, to bend her will, but just finding the exit was a struggle. Shadows loomed at the corners of her vision, darting away when she turned. They were playing hide and seek, too, beckoning her to follow. Her heart raced as she stumbled forward, scanning the mirrors, each reflection revealing another horrific tableau. Walls warped into grotesque silhouettes, mouths gaping wide in silent screams, faces dripping with shadowy tears. It was all a macabre performance, and she was the audience. "Mommy!" Lily's voice broke through, more insistent now. "You can play too. Just look in the mirror." Fear ripped through Sarah. "No!" she cried, clutching her head as if to block out the chaos. But the shrieks of joy turned abrasive, echoing her name in a mocking chant. Each reflection shimmered, intertwining with the shadows, luring her closer. There, in the central mirror, Lily stood smiling, her cherubic face glowing against the dark. "I'm waiting. You can see me if you just look." The room trembled with her voice. Fury surged through Sarah, cutting through the fog of madness. She took a defiant step closer, eyes locked on her daughter. "Lily, I'm coming." As she approached, the mirror rippled like water, creating waves of colors and voices that tugged at her very essence. Something was wrong. It was a trap. Just as she reached out to touch the glass, the laughter grew monstrous, drowning out her thoughts. "You can't resist. Join the fun." With renewed determination, Sarah swallowed her fear, ripping her gaze from Lily's image. She stepped back, knowing she didn't want to be part of this game. "I won. Play your games," she shouted into the convulsing air. The room trembled, and for a moment, silence fell like a heavy curtain. Then, darkness coiled once more. The mirrors shattered, crackling like thunder, shards flying in every direction. Sarah ducked instinctively, shielding her face as a cloud of glass rained down around her. As she emerged, breathless, from the wreckage, she felt something cold brush against her arm, a soft, chilling caress. "Mommy," it was a whisper, close enough to feel the breath against her skin. Terror gripped her heart as she spun around, searching, but there was no one there. The voice had come from within, echoing in her very core, merging with her doubts and fears. Lily, was she still in control, or was she too late? The remnants of the mirror shimmered at her feet, each piece a captured reflection of a game she didn't want to play. But Lily was still out there, wasn't she? Somewhere in this chaos. "Hold on, sweetheart," Sarah whispered, gripping a shard tightly. She would find her, no matter what. She would not give in. As she stepped forward, another voice whispered in her ear, full of malice. "You don't know what's waiting for you next." She paused, breath hitching. What had she unleashed by stepping through the threshold of darkness? The air thickened again, and shadows crawled closer, claws scraping against her mind, threatening to ensnare her again. But she had to move. She had to escape the grasp of her fears and delve deeper into this nightmare where time and space twisted like a serpent. What lay ahead? Would she uncover the truth of this horror, or would she be consumed? Each step echoed with uncertainty, pulling her further into a chilling void where every corner concealed a deeper dread. The shards of glass glimmered under flickering lights like teeth waiting to bite. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she stilled, listening to the unsettling sound of silence. Each drop of adrenaline surged her forward, though dread wrapped around her throat like a noose. "Lily," she breathed out again, this time a plea weighed down with fear. The only answer was the oppressive stillness, thick as fog. Was her daughter even here anymore? Or had she vanished deeper into this nightmare? Chills swept down her spine as she peered into the scattered shards of glass. They reflected distorted fragments of the room, fractured images writhing like something alive. She caught glimpses of movement, shadows flitting just out of sight, darting behind the remnants of broken mirrors. They were taunting her. "Come play with us," the whisper echoed all around, a symphony of sinister voices, each line spoken with venomous glee. She turned sharply, eyes darting. "Shut up," she shouted. The shadows seemed to respond, thickening with each word. She could feel their presence, sticky and cloying, trying to smother her will. They laughed, a cacophony that twisted her stomach, making her want to scream, to run. But where? Where to escape when the walls whispered betrayal? In the back of her mind, a flicker of defiance ignited. She would not let them control her, Not when Lily might be close. Lily, she called again, voice rising, trembling with desperation. The laughter pointed fingers at her vulnerabilities, mocking her courage. Mommy, mommy, the sound turned sweet and inviting. Don't. Sarah clamped her hands over her ears, her nails digging into her temples. The darkness was seeping in too fast. She had to look away from the shadows and focus on the reflections, until she spotted that familiar face a ripple in one of the shards. Her daughter's face, innocence etched in every detail. But again, it was distorted, her smile stretching wider than humanly possible, eyes pulsating with a darkness that was not of this world. Mommy, please come closer, the twisted plea wrapped around Sarah like chains. She staggered backward, her breath coming fast, frantic. No, you aren't real. For a moment, it felt as if those words hung heavy in the air, awaiting the answer they would bring. But the shadows only grew bolder, and the air crackled with electricity, a palpable energy thrumming like a heartbeat, loud and relentless. She had to break this cycle. Without thinking, Sarah lunged towards the shards, grasping a longer one that still had a glint. It felt like shouting into a storm. Risky and reckless, but she needed control. She held it against the edge of her throat, using the sting of the cold glass to ground herself, almost daring the shadows to strike. Not today, she screamed, using the shard like a talisman. The whispers turned frenzied. You can't resist forever. Suddenly, the mirrors erupted, not shattering but splitting open like grotesque mouths, doors to deeper nightmares. Black tendrils spilled out, writhing and slithering, eager to consume. Sarah stumbled back, heart racing. From one of these mouths, a form began to take shape, a ghastly figure, cloaked in darkness, eyes glowing like dying embers. You think you can escape? It hissed, voice layered with countless whispers. It's only just begun. The figure stepped forward as though the shadows weighed it down. Instinct kicked in. Sarah turned, forcing her legs to move, racing past the dark currents, the air thickening with every breath of cold. Her mind screamed the only thought: find Lily, find Lily, find Lily. But the shadows responded, intertwining her anxiety into a web of confusion, pulling her limbs, dragging her deeper into despair. The laughter crescendoed into a frenzied chorus, each note cutting sharper than a knife. She was losing everything. Just as she turned another corner in this maze of nightmares, she nearly collided with another mirror standing at odd angles, reflecting infinite distortions. Within it, her own face looked back, panicked and wild. Then she noticed it wasn't just her. Pair of eyes stared from behind her reflection, a familiar silhouette. Help me. That voice was too small, too terrified to be anything but Lily. Lily. A single step fell from her trembling body toward the mirror as the whispers surged, twisting into an accusation. Do you really want to find her? They sneered. But Sarah's resolve hardened. She wouldn't let them rob her of her daughter again. As the shadows lunged, she surged forward with all her remaining strength, desperate to shatter the mere illusion that stood between them. And as she touched the cold surface, everything went dark. The shadows roared in delight. Let the game begin. What awaited her on the other side? Would Lily be waiting, or had she lost her forever? Sarah's determination waned, her fear fully realized as she plunged into the unknown depths of shadow. A cold wind hit Sarah like a wave, pulling her in different directions. The darkness was thick here, a mist that wrapped around her. She felt as if she were swimming through it. Each stroke met with resistance, like trying to break through an unseen barrier. Panic surged, a tightness in her chest gnawing at her resolve. Lily! The scream ripped from her throat, echoing into the void, swallowed by the shadows. She closed her eyes, trying to summon strength. How could she fight darkness if she didn't even know where it ended? Suddenly, a flicker of light caught her attention. It pulsed softly, a distant beacon flickering in the abyss. Could it be hope? Was it her daughter? Lily! She shouted again, urgency bleeding into every syllable. The light grew bright, a piercing white amid the gloom. As it surged forward, the shadows recoiled, hissing like 1,000 angry snakes. She blinked, wondering if she was imagining things, but the brightness held firm, illuminating her surrounding. In the heart of that light, a figure emerged. Was it Lily? Sarah squinted, fear and yearning mixing in a swelling tide within her. But as the figure came closer, the brightness warped. Instead of her daughter, shadows twisted around an entity cloaked in white, its features obscured. "Come here," it beckoned, voice soft and enticing, almost familiar. "Where's Lily?" Sarah demanded, taking a step back. "Show me my daughter." The figure only smiled a cold, pale smile that sent shivers racing down her spine. "You can't save her from this place, Sarah. You must let her go." "No!" she screamed, rage boiling beneath her fear. She lunged toward the figure, but it dissipated into swirling mist, leaving only the taunting laughter of the shadows in its wake. The laughter echoed loud and mocking, and with it came the whispers, accusing her. "You've come here to play, and you must play by our rules." Somewhere, at the heart of that noise, she heard it again, a faint voice calling. "Mommy!" Her heart froze. A ghostly chill brushed against her skin like a soft breath, but she forced herself to follow the sound. This time, the light seemed to guide her. Each step felt lighter, the darkness retreating like a tide. "Lily!" She pushed through the whispers, past crawling shadows that tried to tug her back, spiraling her doubt. "I'm coming." As she approached, the walls shifted, the environment morphing into nightmarish distortions. Doors appeared, some ajar, some sealed shut. Each one radiated dread, whispering promises and threats. A door caught her eye. It was small, wooden, just like the one she used to read bedtime stories to Lily. This must be it, she thought, hope sparking within her. But as she reached for the knob, the whispers grew loud again, rushing back with terrible insistence. "She doesn't want you. Let go of the past, or only the darkness will remain." Fear slipped into the cracks of her determination. She hesitated, mind racing. "What if I'm wrong?" The laughter morphed into an ominous tone. "What if you lose her forever?" "No." With a surge of adrenaline, she flung the door open, ready to face anything beyond. A scream erupted from the other side, piercing the gloom. Felt like an eternity, but she stumbled through. The door slammed shut behind her with a boom, sealing her fate in that fleeting moment. Now, she stood in a room, filled with gleaming toys she once recognized. There were dolls, teddy bears, and the soft glow of a night light in the corner. But in the center lay a murky, black pit consuming the toys, drawing them closer, dragging them into the void. "Lily!" she cried, horror clawing at her throat. "Lily!" And then she saw her daughter, standing just beyond the pit. But her eyes were glassy, a hollow expression on her sweet face. "Help me!" A tremor shot through Sarah as she realized Lily was trapped, lost in this sinister game. Her spirit caught in the very shadows that sought to consume them both. With rage and fear locked in a whirlwind inside her, Sarah reached toward the pit. What choice would she make? Risk everything to save her daughter, or dash with the darkness, while she could still escape? "Help me, Mommy!" The haunting sound ignited her decision, but the shadows roared around her, hungry. Would she plunge into the void, or could she find a way to pull her child back from the brink? The darkness surged, an overwhelming tide threatening to swallow them both whole, as Sarah stood at the edge. "You must choose," the voices whispered, a thousand trails of laughter rolling like thunder. The path ahead narrowed, bravery or desperation, life or doom. As she reached one trembling hand toward Lily, the shadows lunged. What awaited them both? Did dark forces plot to take her away forever? Or was there a glimmer of hope deep within the darkness? The decision loomed, fierce and unforgiving, as Sarah grasped for a legacy of love or an ending encased in shadows. Sarah's heart raced as she took a step closer to the pit. The whispering voices surrounded her, each syllable dripping with malice. "Help me!" Lily's waning voice echoed from the depths, a sound that pierced through the chaos like a knife. "Stay back, Lily! I'm coming!" Sarah shouted, fighting against the pull of despair creeping in. The pit churned, awakening a darkness as thick as tar, ready to devour anything in reach. With a deep breath, Sarah extended her hand toward the cool void. The shadows lashed out, wrapping around her wrist like icy chains. She winced but pressed forward, her resolve hardening. The pit felt alive, thrumming beneath the surface, urging her to turn back. "No," she bellowed. "I won't lose you, Lily." As if in response, the pit pulsed violently, spewing forth a surge of chilling mist that enveloped Sarah, making it hard to breathe. She gasped, vision blurring. Was she losing herself to the shadows? "Mommy!" The voice was louder now, frayed and desperate, as if struggling against the darkness entwining it. "Hold on," Sarah cried, her voice breaking. She could see Lily's figure more clearly now, her child's face blurred with tears. The spot where Lily stood flickered like a dying bulb, shadows curling in and out of focus. In that fleeting moment, memories flooded Sarah's mind. The laughter, the warm hugs, Lily's first steps, it all rushed back. A tide of love and longing. Each memory fueled her determination. "Let her go." The shadows hissed, furious at her defiance. Their whispers transformed into frantic, thunderous roars, drowning out her thoughts. "You can't save her." "I will," she screamed, summoning her strength. With all her might, she pulled her hand free from the icy grip, lunging toward her daughter. As she crossed the threshold of the pit, the air thickened, resistance wrapping around her like a cloak. The shadows clawed at her, but she pressed on, adrenaline blinding her to the pain. "Lily, grab my hand." Lily reached out, her fingers trembling. Just as they were about to connect, a shrill laughter erupted from the void, a sound that chilled Sarah to her bones. The shadows reshaped themselves into grotesque figures, each one sporting twisted smiles that mocked her every move. "You can't have her," the figures screeched, swarming toward them like a storm. Sarah's heart sank. The shadows surged, threatening to swallow Lily whole. In that instant, she could feel the dark pit pulling at her, tempting her to join it. "Let go, Mommy." Lily's voice trembled. Fear seeped through her words. "You have to let go." The cold realization hit Sarah like a hammer. They were trying to tear her away from her child. "No, I won't abandon you, Lily." With a strength she didn't know she possessed, she gripped Lily's outstretched hand. But the shadows tightened their hold, squeezing both of them with cruel force. "Let her go. She belongs to us," they screeched, a cacophony echoing through the room. "Not today." With a surge of defiance, Sarah dug her feet into the solid ground, unwilling to yield. "We're leaving together." A bright light flared around Sarah's hand where it clasped Lily's. The shadows shrieked as they recoiled, the brightness pushing them back, illuminating the twisted darkness. But just like that, the light flickered, and a new darkness swelled. The entities coiled back, lurking just beyond the edge of their circle, eyes glistening with hungry anticipation. "Join us," they whispered, coaxing her deeper into the void. "You can't escape." Suddenly, Sarah felt the familiar warmth of Lily's hand begin to slip. In sheer panic, she tightened her grip. "Lily, hold on." Yet, beneath her fierce resolve, doubt crept in. Could she really save her? The shadows were relentless, a tidal wave of despair, and Sarah fought to steady her breath. The pit grew larger, its depths pulsing with a malevolent energy, threatening to swallow them whole. Could they break free? Or was there an insidious truth waiting to be uncovered, one that would shatter her hope forever? As the shadows converged, Sarah felt the fragile tether of their connection wavering. Would she hold on, or would darkness sever the bond that tied them? The final choice was upon them, and with it, the dark laughter reverberated around her, wrapping around her heart like a noose, tightening. This was just the beginning, and the true horror awaited in the depths. What would it cost her to fight back against the shadows? The shadows writhed like snakes, coiling tighter around Sarah and Lily, stinging and biting at their flesh. Sarah's pulse pounded in her ears, drowning out the sinister laughter, but she fought to focus. She needed to harness every ounce of strength to pull her daughter from this nightmare. "Please, Lily, just hold on." The words clawed at her throat. Every syllable felt like a prayer. As her grip tightened, the light flared again, emanating from their clasped hands, pushing back the encroaching darkness. But the pit rumbled, angry and impatient, urging the shadows to retaliate. The cold mist wrapped around Sarah's ankles, dragging her backward, each inch feeling like a betrayal of her own will. Lily's frightened face twisted in agony, fighting against the encircling void. I can't hold on much longer. No, Sarah yelled, desperation lacing her voice. The figures loomed closer, their ghastly faces leering, eyes gleaming with malicious delight. Whispers filled the air, echoing incomprehensible threats that raised the hair on Sarah's neck. Your love is a weakness, they taunted, their grotesque mouths forming words in unison. You'll lose her, just like before. Memories surged again, jarring and bitter. The kitchen where they baked cookies, and the park where Lily celebrated her last birthday. Each memory was a phantom tugging at her heartstrings, but they felt tainted, as if poisoned by the unfathomable depths of the pit. What if that laughter wasn't just haunting? What if it were rooted in truth? Join us, they hissed sweetly. Let the pain go. You can be free. Free? Sarah spat, realizing the sick deception before her. Free to suffer forever? No. Her resolve, now a burning fire, ignited every second of their connection. I won't give in. In a desperate surge, she yanked Lily towards her, their hands catching the brightest glimmers of light as they collided with the shadows. For just a moment, the monstrous scream of pain resonated through the abyss, shaking the very foundation of the pit. But the dark mass surged back with fury, encasing them in an impenetrable cocoon of despair. It crept into Sarah's thoughts, gnawing at her courage. A deep-rooted fear emerged, the shame of failing once again. Mommy, I can't breathe. Lily's voice cracked, her small body trembling under the weight of darkness. No, stay with me, Lily. You're stronger than this. The words escaped Sarah, raw and desperate, and then it hit her an instinct she couldn't shake. She needed to let go of the fear weighing her heart down. The realization struck like lightning. She drew in a breath, letting go of the thought of losing Lily. She didn't just have to fight for her, they needed to fight together. I love you, Lily, Sarah shouted into the darkness, her heart blazing fiercely. We are not leaving each other. We are stronger together. As if answering her rallying cry, the light surged yet again, bright enough to pierce through the veil of shadows. The hands holding Lily trembled, but that flickering warmth ignited hope, illuminating the grotesque figures just long enough for Sarah to see them fearful, desperate creatures hiding behind their own terror. No, they screamed as the light expanded, cascading around Sarah and Lily, pulling them back from the unforgiving edge of the pit. But in a last act of malice, they clawed at the light, drawing it back toward themselves, refusing to relinquish their claim. Join us, they shrieked, their voices a dissonance that rattled her bones. Never, Sarah cried as she pushed against the shadows, feeling the heat radiate from their grip. But uncertainty burrowed itself into her thoughts again. Was this brightness merely a temporary blip in the encompassing void? As the light flickered wildly, revealing second chances and unseen horrors around them, Sarah's muscles ached with the violent struggle of holding on. And then the floor beneath them began to crack, fissures forming, the godforsaken pit yawning wider, its depths eager to consume. Mommy, Lily's terrified voice trailed off, lost in the chorus of screeches. What would happen? Now, would they be dashed into the darkness, never to rise again? In that momentary silence amidst the chaos, Sarah felt a beckoning whisper break through, resonating with a chilling warning. Your true strength is the cost of your freedom. With the pit screaming for her attention, everything hung on a thread. Could they find a way out, or would they unravel completely in the shadows? The answer was rippling through the air, more terrifying than the shadows themselves. Sarah felt the massive weight of the air around her shift, every subtle movement a reminder of time slipping through her fingers. The creaking echoes of chaos climbed around them. Shadows twisted in a dance of despair while the pit yawned, hungry, dark tendrils grasping at her. Lily, she shouted again, but it felt like a prayer lost in a church of silence. Mommy, Lily cried, the the sound barely making it through, heavy with fear. I can't hold on. Panic surged in Sarah's chest. She felt the world around her quaking. She grasped Lily's hand tighter, as if the mere act could anchor them both. No, you've got this. Just breathe. She felt the icy grip of the shadows clawing at her legs, biting deeper with every passing moment. A darkness that wanted her to drown. Yet, with every ounce of resolve, a flame ignited within a truth that surged against the shadows' suffocating grip. There was no finesse, no surge of magic. It was the pure love of a mother rising like a tsunami, smashing against every doubt. We are together, sweetheart. They can't take you from me. The light flickered again, more insistent now, shattering the darkness swirling around them. The grotesque figures recoiled at the brightness, their howls mixing in with the cacophony of shadows, an orchestra of torment. Sarah's heart thundered as she pressed her weight against the tide of dark figures attempting to rip them apart. Join us, the whispers weaved through her mind, alluring yet punishing. Never, she roared, summoning a primal scream that reverberated off the walls of her anguish. You don't own her. Tendrils darted towards her heart, seeking to latch on with impossible strength, but she pushed forward. Each heartbeat pulsed with light, growing brighter against the fabric of darkness. Hold hands, Lily. Look into my eyes. The flicker of connection held steady, a bond forged in warmth overriding the coldness ensnaring them. Lily's face tilted upward, fear mingling with a flicker of hope as she matched her mother's gaze with a beam of unwavering light. I'm here, Mommy. Suddenly, the figures screeched, their malevolence morphing into frantic desperation. The pit beneath them trembled, each crack widening until whispers turned into roars of approval as shadows spiraled into a vortex, dragging at the edges of the collapsing reality. In that moment, Sarah knew this was not just a fight for survival. It was a battle between love and despair, a tug-of-war of their essence. Clarity shaped her thoughts. True strength lay in embracing their light, in being united without fear. Together now, Sarah howled, pushing against the wall of shadowy abandon. Their joined hands ignited such brilliance that it shocked the creeping figures, who turned away, howling into the angsty void. Let us go, light, Sarah cried, the kaleidoscope of glow morphing around them, a radiant explosion bursting forth, scattering the dark entities like dust in the wind. Illuminate our way out. The shadows writhed and twisted, but together they charged into the abyss, bound by the ferocity of their love. In the split second that felt like eternity, the pit rumbled, distorting as blinding light surged forth, electrocuting the darkness that clawed around them. With one last effort, Sarah took a leap alongside Lily, crying out, "We are not bound by fear." The light shattered the night, a roaring crescendo as shadows screeched and fled. The pit beneath them erupted, fracturing into the ether as they soared upward, emerging into a blinding bright realm. They collapsed onto soft grass, the cool breeze enveloping them. Laughter erupted from Lily. It rang pure and beautiful under the sun. For the first time in days, the air tasted sweet, vibrant with hope as they lay together, blinking against the rays. Mommy, we made it, Lily chirped, her eyes sparkling. Yes, we did. Sarah embraced her tightly, relief flooding through them like a healing balm. In that moment, Sarah felt an overwhelming gratitude. No shadows here, no lurking fears. Only the embrace of life renewing, sunlight washing away the vestiges of darkness that had tried to claim her. As they stood, hand in hand, they turned back to where the shadows receded, knowing their love had triumphed over despair. In Maplewood, life would return to normal. The whispers that plagued them would never touch them again. Sarah and Lily walked forward, embracing tomorrow with fierce resolve, leaving the darkness behind. Their reunion was a reminder the ultimate truth was that love, indeed, conquers all. If you've enjoyed this tale's chilling twists and heartwarming conclusion, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories we have lined up. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this gripping saga. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything to us.